You guys ready?
All right, yeah, we are live.
All right.
Well, I want to start just by saying thanks for being here this morning. We have some sad news to announce. I don't think it's going to be a surprise, but Sunda, our 58-year-old Asian elephant, passed away this morning. It was about 9 o'clock. She's the elephant that has been dealing with a number of different health issues over most of this year, ranging from a mass in her reproductive system to failing kidneys to a compromised immune system. She's 58 years old, and what we were really just starting to see was her body was wearing out. And we've been extremely committed to her really over the past 7-8 years, treating her as a geriatric elephant. And on Monday, things took a turn for the worse. She laid down and could not get back up. And we got her up that day, kind of through a heroic type effort, by getting straps under her, using a rope and pulley system to physically lift her up, allow her to get her feet underneath her. But we saw some things on Monday that really concerned us, and that was during the one of the early attempts to lift her, she just didn't do anything, and that is very untypical in that situation. We decided that day to try one more time, and sure enough, she was able to get her feet under her, and actually acted pretty good the remainder of that day. But what we saw on Monday was enough to tell us that was our last heroic type effort. That she was at a point where her body was failing, and we were losing our race with age and time. Mm-hmm. And yesterday she had a great day. She looked great. The weather is beautiful. She spent most of the day outside. Someone gave us an elm tree. That's one of her favorite browse species. She was chowing on the elm. Just looked good. But at the same time, we knew that there were all these issues that we couldn't reverse, and we'd already made the decision that we weren't going to intervene anymore. We wanted her to be as happy as possible with the remaining time that she had, and she had access to be inside and outside. About 2:30 this morning, she went outside, messed around out in the yard, ate for a while, explored, laid down about 4 o'clock, and at 6:30, as the sun was starting to come up, couldn't get up again. And today was a little different in that she didn't have good control of her head at all, and couldn't coordinate her front legs. And that was a worse position than what she was in on Monday. On Monday, what we saw was an elephant that was trying to get up. Today, it was like the front half she couldn't control or work. So we stuck with the decision that we had made on Monday. We made her as comfortable as we possibly could. Gave her some treats. Peppermint. Peppermint was always one of her favorites. She held on to an apple in her trunk until the very end. About 8 o'clock, we sedated her and decided that it was time. She's been here since 1966. She's an iconic animal of this zoo. She was a beautiful Asian elephant. Every elephant is an impressive animal, but she had this feel, this presence, that she was just regal, and she was the matriarch of our herd, kind of the matriarch of this zoo, the longest tenured family member here at this zoo. You know, our purpose at this zoo, at least one of our purposes at this zoo, is to connect people to wildlife and wild places. And she did that with millions of people over the time that she was here. We will miss her dearly. We have a staff today that's grieving for the loss that we're feeling, but celebrating a little bit too, in that she's beyond the illnesses that she was dealing with, and celebrating in the legacy that she leaves here. I realize that I'm kind of rambling at this point. If anybody has any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
When was the mass and reproductive system discovered, and what kind of treatments was she getting for that?
It was discovered within the last 12 months. I will be able to get that answer to you. And one of the problems is there wasn't a treatment we could do for it. You know, ideally, you would give an animal a hysterectomy. I don't know if that's been successfully done in an elephant, and it's just not something we would attempt to do in a geriatric elephant. So that was one of those things that you're aware of, you can't do anything about. Now, if it was causing discomfort, we were managing that, but elephants are big animals, and diagnostics and treatment options are sometimes limited just because of their size.
How are the other elephants reacting?
You know, the other elephants, they were herd, and you know, when she was sleeping early this morning, Timbo, the elephant that Sundas lived with for years and years, was standing guard over her. That's kind of what they did. One would sleep, the other would stand guard. I know that the elephants know that Sunda's no longer with them. Right now, Timbo and Korra seem to be doing okay. It's something we're definitely going to be keeping an eye on, and because they'll need time to adjust to. You know, they lost their matriarch. They're going to have to sort out who the new one is, and we'll give them the time and space that they need to do that.
And does this death have an impact on the elephant community?
You know, this is a symbolic loss in a number of ways. Asian elephants are facing a really difficult time in the wild, and if you were here yesterday, you'd notice that the two Asian elephants we have look very different, and it's representative of the different parts of the world that they're from. It decreases the population by one in a population of animals that definitely needs a lot of help, a lot of work, a lot of conservation needs with elephants. Because she was post-reproductive, she wasn't factored into the reproductive or the future elephant population from that standpoint. So it's more of an emotional loss that we're dealing with.
A viewer wants to know if her body's still available for the other elephants to mourn.
It was this morning. We're in the process now of moving the body. We don't know exactly where yet, and one of the reasons is because of what your viewer asked. While our first choice may be to move her off-site and perform a necropsy. If our elephants still need to recognize her body being there for a bit longer, then we may perform the necropsy just behind our elephant barn.
Where do you go from here? I mean, are you thinking about getting more elephants, or is there any?
Where we go from here, which is a great opportunity for me to speak to a point. Our master availability of elephants, their demographics are changing substantially in the wild with both African and Asian elephants. The population that's in this country is still at a point where it's getting older, but once that population, once the older elephants eventually die, then slowly but eventually the population should start to grow again. So we're kind of in a wait-and-see mode in terms of where do we go from here. We're not aware of any elephants today that need to find a home. We have gone down that road before, and which is how we went from 2 elephants to 4. If that changes, that would be something that we would explore. But it's just kind of too soon to really tell.
And how will the elephant exhibit look today? Is it open to the public?
Thanks for asking that. I should have mentioned that. Today, we're anticipating that the elephant habitat here is going to be closed to the public. That could change later this afternoon, just seeing how things go this morning. We need to move Sunda, determine where we're going to perform the necropsy, give the other elephants a chance to kind of go through their morning routine, MOURN routine, and really just kind of base that decision on how they're doing. We do anticipate that it will be open tomorrow, moving forward.
Okay, let's go.
And elephants are kind of known to be more emotional creatures, and is that changing how you're handling this death with how you're going to allow the other animals to mourn?
Elephants definitely are emotional animals, very communicative animals, and it has changed. You know, I'd say over the last 10, 15 years, it's definitely changed how we handle that grieving process with the animals that we work with elephants and apes, and maybe even some others, and you know, allowing them time to experience that loss, to say goodbye, is something that we definitely do, something that has definitely changed over time.
So you said it was many of the things that were going wrong with her. It was not one specific issue that caused her to pass away.
That is correct. The best way we can describe it right now is her body was just starting to wear out, and you know, those problems were piling one on top of the other, and most of them were things that we can't do anything about. We can't replace a kidney. We can't do a hysterectomy. We could treat symptoms. We could make her comfortable. We knew that when she got to the point where our efforts weren't working anymore, that would be the time to let her go, and that's really what we saw this week. Is now the muscle skeletal system is starting to fail her, and with a number of different organ systems starting to fail, we just didn't want her to suffer.
Thanks, Brendan.
So closing the exhibit means those elephants are just going to be inside then?
The elephants may vary. We're probably going to give them access to where they want to be.
Okay.
And but we're just going to block the path for our guests.